For years, the location of Fredbear's Family Diner has been a mystery, giving rise to various theories and hypotheses. Today, I plan to put an end to that, or at least try to. So, what are the theories regarding what happened to Fredbear's Family Diner? The first, and I believe the oldest, is that Fredbear's Family Diner became the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from 1987, the one in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, a conclusion drawn from Phone Guy's message on Night 5.
We don't have a replacement for your chef yet, but we're working on it. We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down. So just get through one more night. Hang in there. Good night.
The phrase implies that Fazbear Entertainment is having trouble with the current restaurant. Check out my latest video for more details. Fazbear is forced to contact the original owner of the location known as Fredbear's Family Diner. This is followed by the line, "It's closed for years though," implying that the restaurant had been shut down but later reopened. This statement is considered one of the strongest pieces of evidence that Fredbear's Family Diner became the 87 location, a theory I find quite compelling. However, depending on the interpretation, I would argue that the phrase refers to the brand rather than the specific restaurant itself, given that Fazbear Entertainment owns both Fredbear's and Freddy's. As for the part of the sentence indicating that the Fredbear's restaurant was closed for a time but later reopened, I'll discuss that further in a moment. Another counter-argument regarding the plausibility of this theory involves the existence of the toy animatronics along with the puppet prior to 1983. As shown in my last video, references to the toys, the puppet, and Balloon Boy, animatronics previously thought exclusive to the 1987 pizzeria, can be found during the Fall Fest event. Furthermore, a minigame in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 features a child playing with toys modeled after Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica. This suggests these characters predated 1983 when Fredbear's Family Diner was active, even though they do not appear at that location. Additional evidence lies in the puppet's status regarding Fredbear's. We know Charlie died at a Freddy's location, specifically one featuring the toys, as seen in the book Ticket to Fun. This aligns with the original book trilogy, indicating Charlie disappeared in 1982 and was presumed dead in 1983, and the movie indicating she died in 1982 at the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza where the toys appear. All signs point to the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 restaurant predating 1987 and even 1983, having opened sometime between 1979 and 1982. Notably, despite being referred to as new, the location features dirty walls and floors, a state that would only be possible if it had already been open for some time. With all of this evidence, it is possible to say with certainty that the 1987 Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was active during the existence of Fredbear's Family Diner, which shows that they are completely different buildings. Another fan-favorite theory is that Fredbear's Family Diner would eventually become Fazbear's Fright. This theory gained traction with the game Secret of the Mimic, where a map of Fazbear's Fright can be found within the Fazbear project. Given that the game takes place in 1979, over 30 years before Fazbear's Fright appeared, some argue this is actually the map for Fredbear's Family Diner. Other evidence points to suspicious changes in the location itself, such as Freddy posters being replaced by Spring Bonnie posters, suggesting the Spring Bonnie ones were the originals, and, in my opinion, the strongest argument. Accessing the Stage 01 minigame requires entering a specific code on the Fazbear's Fright wall, with that minigame serving as a representation of Fredbear's Family Diner. Considering that all secret minigames in the game are accessed by interacting with something related to the minigame, like BB's Air Adventure, triggered by pressing and drawing a Balloon Boy, it follows that we would access a Fredbear's Family Diner minigame by interacting with the building itself. However, while these arguments are compelling, I believe there are flaws. Regarding the map in Secret of the Mimic, I honestly believe it was a potential layout drafted by Fazbear's for a future location that never materialized. The Fazbear's Fright team later found it and built their location based on it. I am 100% confident, and believe it is confirmed, that Fredbear's Family Diner existed prior to Secret of the Mimic, evidenced by the existence of Fredbear's branded boxes dating back to the 1970s. It would make no sense for Murray Costume Manor to store the blueprints for a restaurant that had already been built over a decade earlier. especially considering the map consists solely of corridors and lacks a main dining area for children or even a stage. Regarding the Freddy posters turning into Spring Bonnie ones, I can explain it simply. They aren't just Easter eggs, but a way to signal that Springtrap is present in that room. That's right, the Spring Bonnie posters only appear if Springtrap is on that same camera. With this in mind, I can explain them through the lens of Springtrap's own agony. Since the suit was used to kill the children, it is possible that the agony within the suit, combined with William's own agony, alters the environment, transforming the image of the Fazbear star into the very being that destroyed it. Finally, accessing Stage 01 is the hardest to explain. If we follow the logic that all secret minigames are accessed via objects related to them, why on earth is a minigame set at Fredbear's Family Diner accessed by pressing bricks at Fazbear's Fright? Well, I have two answers to this question. The simplest and least amusing one is the same as the previous argument. Since the location is packed with Fazbear-related items, all the associated traumas and memories are present. With the presence of the killer wearing a suit from that era, everything suggests the place is so saturated with agony that it is haunted. We aren't accessing a Fredbear's minigame because we are at Fredbear's, but rather accessing a memory charged by the trauma attached to the items there. Alternatively, if our protagonist is indeed Michael Afton, who has a significant history with Fredbear's, we could be accessing one of his memories or simply recalling Fredbear's by tapping into the agony within Michael himself. Another possible answer lies in the code itself. 395248 is an oddly specific number because it actually conceals a secret. If we reverse it to 842593 and treat it as a hexadecimal code, we get a color, a very well-known one in fact, as it is the exact color of the purple guy sprite from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. This means the code used to access Fredbear's Family Diner corresponds to William Afton's color. This resolves the issue we were trying to figure out. We aren't accessing Fredbear's Family Diner from Fazbear's Fright. Instead, we are accessing it through the eyes of the killer, who we know was active at Fredbear's Family Diner, given that at the end of the minigame, Fredbear discovers a dead child linked to the MCI, crucial for the happiest day good ending. This ties into an extremely interesting theory I want to cover in a future video regarding Cassidy's abduction at Fredbear's Family Diner, but that is a topic for another day. With all this, I've debunked the theory that Fredbear's is the pizzeria from the second game, as well as the one from third game, so it's time to state what I truly believe the answer to be. Fredbear's Family Diner became the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from the first game. Let's start at the beginning. By all indications, Fredbear's Family Diner closed in 1983. Curiously, a coin in Help Wanted suggests that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened in 1983, specifically the location where the MCI occurred in 1985. It closed in 1987 and reopened around 1989 or 1993, the time frame for Five Nights at Freddy's 1. We actually play in the old Fredbear's Family Diner after it had been remodeled into a Freddy's location. Is there more evidence? During the post-night minigame in the fourth game, we see a TV show called Fredbear and Friends, featuring the four main characters, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, alongside the titular Fredbear. However, Security Breach introduces a variation of this show called Freddy Fazbear and Friends, suggesting a change occurred. Given that Fredbear and Friends aired before the bite of '83, this implies that after the bite, Fredbear was dropped from the band. Freddy took his place, and the show became Freddy Fazbear and Friends. This may parallel the fate of the location itself, which was remodeled after the bite to erase traces of Fredbear from Fazbear history, transforming it into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. In Five Nights at Freddy's 4, we can also observe other details connecting the two restaurants, such as the layout of Fredbear's Family Diner matching almost perfectly with the layout seen in the Follow Me minigame. A room with a stage, a hallway or room, and finally the safe room, where Spring Bonnie appears in both versions. Furthermore, the 1983 backstage area resembles the backstage from the first game, featuring a table with an endoskeleton and shelves holding animatronic heads. When compared to the only other backstage area at the time, the parts and service room in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the differences between these three locations are apparent. with the Fredbear's backstage being strikingly similar to the backstage at the 1985 Freddy's location. One last interesting detail worth noting brings us back to the Stage 01 minigame. We see Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, and 3 children, but we can also spot 3 clouds. While 3 clouds might not seem significant on their own, if we consider that they clearly point toward the Fredbear stage, it is curious that the stage in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 features those exact same 3 clouds. It could just be a coincidence, but it is certainly intriguing. Moving on to the books, The Week Before offers several connections and key points relevant to this theory. For instance, Ralph finds a Fredbear's ticket at the pizzeria about 10 years after Fredbear's had closed. This suggests the ticket never left the premises, having remained there since the renovation. Also in the book, Ralph discovers an extra Freddy head and notes that it dates back to the Fredbear's Family Diner era. Logically, this object should have either stayed at that original location or been destroyed, assuming the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 location isn't Fredbear's, yet here it is. Finally, I want to mention one of the book's endings, where Ralph gets lost in the pizzeria's massive ventilation shafts, discovers a human bone, and ultimately dies without ever seeing the light of day. I should point out that the pizzeria from the first game doesn't feature visible ventilation shafts like the one in the second game, or if they do exist, they are too small for Ralph to get lost in. However, these massive vents and the bone found within them link up with the story heard in Sister Location about a body being discovered in the vents at Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental.
So, funny story. A dead body was found in this vent once. Okay, so not that funny, but it's a story.
This suggests that CBEAR is connected via ventilation shafts to the pizzeria from the first game. It would also help explain how William managed to transport the classic animatronic endoskeletons from the pizzeria to the bunker without being detected or seen. Furthermore, if we look at the CBEAR map, we can see that the bunker is connected to none other than Fredbear's Family Diner, which, at this point in the timeline, would be the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the very same location where the MCI took place and where William would eventually rot away as Springtrap. As a final piece of evidence, I want to discuss the game Into the Pit. Although many people, myself included, do not consider it canon, I believe that just as we can use the books and movies to glean lore details, this game also offers interesting information that helps piece together the story of the other games. Set in 1985, the game takes us to the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location associated with the MCI. Here, Oswald can enter the storage room where the Golden Freddy suit is found. However, alongside it, there are posters for Fredbear's Family Diner. Old posters that should have been removed after the bite. Yet, if this is the same location, their presence makes sense. They were simply overlooked during the venue's renovation and left on the wall. Furthermore, if you call the number on one of these posters, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza answers instead of Fredbear's Family Diner. Given that the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the one from the second game, would have been closed at the time due to Charlie's death, the call must be answered by the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location we are currently visiting, indicating that even the Fredbear's phone number was reused for this pizzeria. Finally, I want to discuss the theory that Fredbear's Family Diner is actually the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location from Pizzeria Simulator. This theory is entirely plausible if we accept that Fredbear's Family Diner was the pizzeria from the first game. There is nothing stopping Henry from taking the abandoned location from the first game and transforming it into the pizzeria for the sixth game. In contrast, it would be impossible to claim that Fazbear's Fright and the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from the first game were the same place, given that the Fazbear's Fright team had to retrieve items from the pizzeria, including Springtrap, and bring them to the attraction. However, the pizzeria simulator building poses no such conflict with the other locations, meaning it could perfectly well be the site of the first game. I really hope everyone enjoyed this interpretation of the location where we play. I want to point out that the information in this video isn't entirely my own. I drew a lot of inspiration from videos within the community, specifically those by my fellow theorists Flipside and Zeta Rocks. You can find links to their videos in the description for more details on the topics I left out. See you next time.